Hi, everybody, and welcome to part 3 of 3 on my series on for married couples 25 years and more. This is a great topic to talk about, I think. We talked about anger and arguments in the first episode. We talked about boredom yesterday, and today we're going to do something countercultural and maybe a little controversial. My guest Doug and I are big proponents of avoiding divorce at all costs. It's very harmful to a family, to a person, to children, to the culture. So we're going to get into this topic about why divorce is harmful and why you should work as hard as you can to avoid going down that path. And so welcome, everybody. And I want to say congratulations to those of you who are celebrating an anniversary. My guest tonight is Doug Young. I've known him for 13 or 14 years now. And when I first heard his story of being on the brink of divorce, and I mean being on the brink, I was very intrigued and fascinated. And I was really proud and happy that you and your wife, Diane, turned things around, and it was wonderful. So I think I'd like to take maybe 45 minutes for this discussion, give or take, and we'll have Doug tell his story, and then we'll talk more about some statistics, and I have a couple resources, and why you should avoid divorce, really. Let me qualify that. There are situations that are very extreme that I would not recommend you staying in a marriage. If you are in danger, if there is abuse, if there's physical danger, extreme situations where you would not want to be in the marriage. But tonight we're going to address most of us who've been in long-term marriages. Maybe you have some happy days, some sad days, and we have seasons. We have our ups and downs. Sometimes we have ups for a long period of time. Sometimes we have downs. So we're just talking in general about the average marriage. So welcome, Doug.
Thank you. Hi, Lynn.
All right. Let us first welcome any of the listeners. We don't have any listeners right now. We are doing this Facebook Live to give people who are watching an opportunity to ask questions of Doug, make comments, maybe share your story in a couple of sentences. I can see your comments and I will read them so that Doug can see them too. So feel free to type in any comments if you'd like. And then after this is over, I will post it on my YouTube channel, Marriage Coach Lynn, as well as my channel on Rumble, goes by Lynn Griesmer. So, Doug, you can tell us a little bit about your marriage, how many years you were married, and maybe what you think was going wrong. I'd like to thank you, first of all, for sharing your story and coming on and sharing it with us.
Well, thank you. I'd like to share it if it helps anybody else learn that not quitting has some of the greatest rewards that you'll ever experience in your life by staying together. On May 1st will be my 50th anniversary with my wonderful childhood sweetheart, Diane. We got married when we were 19 and, went through the 7-year, whatever it was. They said 7 years after your marriage, you can have troubles, and maybe even 14. So we had cleared all that and got to our 33-year mark. And I thought we were pretty much, coasting to whenever. But reasons that are understandable for both, we decided to separate for 6 months. Everybody said the statistics say that we'd never get back together. We had a 1 out of 10 chance of getting back together. And I kind of like to be the Rocky or the underdog on the odds. So that was a good motivation for me and her. And we separated, but we never dated anybody else. Looking back, we realized what the reasons were. She had a dominating father, and then getting married at 19, she expected me to be a dominating guy, and I kind of wanted a 50-50 argument stand. So I thought I did a pretty good job, maybe even almost too much of freeing her up from her inhibitions about talking back and discussing. So we had, I thought, a great relationship and had 3 children, all of which were out of college by the time we hit the 33-year mark. And so we separated. It was tough. It was so tough. I just wondered, I was so despondent because I really did love her. And but then the 6 months were the greatest things that happened because I wanted to divorce myself. I realized that I was a cynical person that was always negative around the family. In my business, which was dealing with people and stuff, I was Mr. Friendly and happy. But, with the family, I vented on them any frustrations I had. And most of them, well, not most of them, but a lot of them were on the fact that I weighed 340 pounds. And I thought I was okay and happy about it and active in sports and stuff, but it was playing on me. I'd seen my father and 2 brothers go over 450 and just thought that genetically I was predicted and disposed to have the same thing happen. And so I know I was scared all the time, just not maybe consciously realizing it. So once I was separated from Diane and the kids, I was mean to myself enough that I realized that, oh my gosh. So I wanted to start changing things about that. And 6 months later, on Valentine's evening, I asked her if we could, I don't know, I said, what do we call this, a second marriage, or what do we do, or would you like to get back together? And she said yes, and it's just been steadily getting better and better. I'm afraid if it gets much better, if that sounds crazy, but it's fantastic. And we 9 years ago, started business together, working at our house. So everybody was saying, well, at that time, you've been married, what, 43 years or something? Do you think this is a good idea to try to be with each other 24/7? But it just, that was even fun. I laugh probably 90% of the time that I'm awake. I might even laugh in my sleep, but I don't know that. But it's just so happy.
That's great. That's
our
great.
Financial, yeah. So that's
a couple things that I keyed on to, if I may interrupt a little bit or interject.
Sure.
A couple things I keyed on. I really, number one, your period of separation was fruitful. You were not preparing to get divorced. You were seeing the lawyers. They were telling you 90%, you've reached this point. You're making the process with lawyers. You're starting to go through the process. So you're probably going to get divorced. But you didn't want to throw in the towel. You really didn't want it, but you knew your marriage wasn't in a happy place, but you knew you didn't want to get divorced. A lot of people today will get to the place where they think divorce is the best option. But it sounds to me, Doug, that during your 6 months of separation, you made it fruitful. You examined yourself. And I liked how you said you wanted to divorce yourself. You pulled yourself out of the family situation or the marriage, and you introspection about yourself and realized you had to do some work there. So that's very promising. It's not, you didn't separate and then blame your spouse for your problems, which I think happens a lot. My husband had an affair on me and we're getting divorced. It's his problem. It was horrible what was done to me. You have to, that might not be the best of examples, but you have to just take a look at yourself in the dynamic. And so I'm glad you did that. So was Diane doing the same thing at the same time? Like, she probably didn't want to get divorced, but she knew you were just kind of at an unhappy place.
Well, Diane had never been able to answer the question, could I be on my own? Because she never had the chance to do it. Someone was always telling her or second guessing her at everything she did. So this was a chance for her to be on her own and see about things. I forgot to mention that we, never saw a therapist or anything or anybody telling us what things we should try to do. We just kind of went with our gut. And we both used the same lawyer, which she was a very nice lady, and it only cost us $500. Would I say only? I don't know. Maybe that was high, but I don't think so. But She says, I've never done it. We got it through and got the separation, and we both cried when we were saying our final goodbyes outside the office, and then went on to our separate dwellings and stuff. She got real busy with 911, and she was up in New York for about a month trying to repair the phone line systems up in the city around the area of the disaster. So we didn't get a chance, but we decided we fell into dating once a week and going out to dinner or something and talking and chatting and stuff. And so that was our recipe, and it worked.
That's great. That sounds good. All right. So welcome any of the viewers listening. You have any comments or questions for Doug, please feel free to write them, and I will relay it to him. What other things do we notice about this near divorce? You were both deciding that you both really didn't want it. That was probably in your favor, right? Mm-hmm. You both really didn't want it. So you both made the effort together. Some people will say it takes two to make a strong marriage. It could just take one who doesn't care, who wants to check out. I want to end this. I'm done. But both of your hearts and minds were, you knew you were a team, the D&D team, Doug and Diane, that you thought did you feel a sense of commitment to each other, to the family, your vows? Did you stop and think the promise that you made in the vows, did that enter into it at all?
I brought it up. We probably had talked about it up to maybe a year and a half before we actually separated. And 2 or more times I said, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to just give up. We're not going to be quitters and stuff. And she at least agreed, to keep trying. And then finally the final straw, and we got the lawyer and stuff and got separated. So, because I hate to quit anything. And I've learned that in several phases of my life, in athletic sports and stuff, I quit sports a couple times, teams, and then somehow accidentally got back on the team and then had great success on the team, go from a no stringer in JV football to a guy who intercepts 3 passes in one game, my first game that I played about 2/3 of the way through the season. So, thought I'd quit, didn't, ended up not quitting, and that paid off. And that's happened in another sport and in life, my job. I thought about quitting a couple times during my 37-year career with the company, and luck, I sometimes think of it, brought me back. And boy, that was great to retire and enable me to lead into the job I now have, taking over the account from the company because my boss retired, and enabling myself and my wife to work together and laugh together, and 3 of our children one of our children and 2 of our in-law children to work with us. So it's been great.
That's great.
And
I like
the commute's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
the commute's
nice.
Fantastic. 10 seconds.
Yeah, that's great. So I like how you say you didn't want to quit. You felt a sense that if the marriage ended in divorce, it would almost be a failure. You would have given up. You would have given up on a lifetime together. And you made it 33 years. And we have to look at that. You have solved many problems and overcome so much in 33 years. What we tend to do is we're in these long-term marriages and we look at what's going wrong, the few things that are going wrong, but we forget to think of all the things that have gone right over those years in raising kids and everything. And I just want to remind listeners of the vows. You make a promise to someone for life. This is in most wedding ceremonies, most people, I think, enter a marriage thinking it will be lifelong, lifetime. I think that's a safe assumption. And some of the common vows are, I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, or for better or for worse. And you and Diane were going through worse times, bad times, at the time. So it doesn't mean you bail out on the vows. I promise to be true to you in sickness and in health. I'm sorry to say, but I know a couple of marriages that ended because one of the spouses was in depression and couldn't get over it. Another one developed a physical malady that was just tiring out the spouse. I don't want to say that this is selfish or not. It's not my place to judge why those marriages ended in divorce. But I will say I hope they dug as deep as they could and didn't just feel that a marriage was, I'm married to a good partner when the partner is good, when the partner's healthy, when the partner's happy, when the partner is a certain weight or has a certain attitude or certain looks. I promise to be true to you for richer or for poorer. It's very difficult if you marry and your spouse has a lot of money and a successful business and then loses it and you're used to a certain lifestyle. Well, did you marry the person for the money, or what is love? How are you showing love to your partner if you can take these vows and then maybe 5 or 10 years later just say, I changed my mind? And that can have big repercussions on a family, especially if their kids are long. And I promise to be true to you until death do us part. That can be pretty scary. And when you're in your 20s and you're getting married, until death do you part. I know, Doug, that there are many people nowadays who have told me they've gotten divorced because they were no longer in love with the person, and that, hey, I'm 40, I'm 45, I could have 40 more years of life. I want to see if I can find happiness in another person, in another marriage. And I just go like, oh, you set up a family unit and a whole situation. And do we discard? Are people disposable? So those are things I hope that people will think about. I know that divorce is never an easy solution. Many people go through up to 6 years of intense hardship and unhappiness before they divorce. But unless you have more to add to your story, maybe you can share with us what the perks are of making it to 50 years of marriage. I mean, what the benefits that you feel that you experience that you can share with the younger generation who might get married and after 4 years the romance is over. I see it happen like on Facebook. I see young people, oh, I love my partner is the best in the world. My wife, my husband, I'll smell their dirty socks. I love them. Kiss, kiss, kiss. And then a few years go by and they're not as all, like this young attitude of everything is great. Everything is great. Now you're starting to dig into real issues in life, maybe loss of a job, a mortgage, a new baby coming along. Life gets a little more complicated sometimes as we get into our 30s and 40s. So, Doug, tell us, what are some of the perks and why you would pitch staying married?
Well, to back up for a second, when you said for sickness and in health, 8 years into our marriage, I became acting erratic. I thought our company was folding. I had 2 small children to help support and stuff. And I know the stress was just getting to me. I had a very poor diet. I was eating the standard American diet, big time. And so I was diagnosed as manic depressive. And, she easily could have divorced me there. The 42 days I was in under care, but she didn't. She stuck by us. So that was another reason why I thought our marriage was so strong that we would never have divorce or something like that. And yet you hear the statistics that it's 50% of the couples, get divorced. So what's wrong with you if you don't get divorced, kind of sometimes. But I over my life, I developed, I don't say I overcame the bipolar, but I found out ways to, have a successful career in both the Air Force Reserves and my job. And my family, I did a lot of coaching, about 30 years of coaching, and all that I look as successes to what some people, claim as a deal ender right there. You end up in an institution, never, to be only to be visited. So, or you commit suicide. So overcoming that, but the perks, are have the satisfaction that you didn't give up. And by, now there's very little that it goes wrong. I kind of, a couple years ago, tried the philosophy. Still, I used to have my angry moments and stuff, that I adopted a philosophy: nothing bothers me.
Oh yeah.
So it frustrates my wife, because if we're arguing, the rare times, I just sitting there kind of smiling and still happy that we're just having this interaction together, and we're going to figure it out. We're going to make up afterwards and stuff. And so I don't get upset about that. And she kind of does too. So we really don't argue hardly any time at all now. That's a big perk, just to always be happy. One of the main reasons she wanted to separate was because I was so negative, and that was just bringing her down,
Yeah.
And you don't know if anybody has, been around negative people,
It's
but
tough.
it's one negative person can bring 20 happy people down,
Exactly. Yeah.
So we got away from that, and so we do things. We play a little tennis together. We take walks, and we go with the kids and stuff. We're lucky that our 3 kids and their families live within 30 minutes in different directions from our house, so we get to see the 12 of us together quite often, and even during the pandemic. And so, and then with this pandemic, it just it's been like a second honeymoon, being with her all the time. I don't have to be to Disney World. I can be right where here in our little house, laughing and joking and teasing each other, bantering. And it's just, I just have to keep pinching myself. And it just, like I said, it seems to be getting better and better. So
That's great. I think that it sounds to me you've been friends all these years. You've maintained the friendship. You laugh. You have humor. We need to laugh and have fun with our partner. Life doesn't have to be a serious, difficult, arduous activity. We can live with a great partner. And
it's supposed to be fun.
It's very nice that that you've overcome so much. You have a sense of history. I was talking about this on the other program we were doing. You have now a sense of history. You, in a moment's notice, and I would feel, I do with my 35 years, I feel a sense of pride, healthy pride, accomplishment, and I would not want to be breaking off at this point. It would be traumatic. And there are therapists who say it's even traumatic to your adult children if you get divorced, at 30, 40, 50 years, even if your adult kids are 30 or 40 years old. It's a breakup. And I do want to tell people, and I don't want to offend anybody who may be divorced and is watching this, but you really scramble up the family when you get divorced, and the statistics now go against you. So what happens is a couple can divorce, they have kids, depending on their age. If they're under 15 years old, they can feel abandoned, they can feel confused, they feel a loss of mom and dad. There's 2 separate households. There's a good book that is a classic. If you're thinking about getting divorced and you've been married over 25 years, Between Two Worlds, The Inner Lives of Children of Divorce by Elizabeth Marquardt. And it basically says that the kids aren't happy. If given the choice, children would want their mother and father living in the family, a happy marriage under the same household. They long for that. And instead they become what she calls a ping pong ball. You have to please the dad in one household, please the mom in the other. And then now imagine you get divorced, years go by. Now maybe someone takes on a new partner and you have no say over the parenting of the new step person. It can be messy depending on it can be messy with major events. Your adult kids get married. Now you have different sets of grandparents. I just think it's very, very harsh on children of divorce. It's very harsh. And I know people will say, oh, quality time, everything's great. I live close. I take my kids out to pizza, out for pizza on the weekends when I see them, and then they go home and they've got the best of both worlds. Well, we adults try to tell ourselves that we're making it the best of both worlds. But I just want to say, I just hope that people can find a way to work through the hardships. And I think of your marriage like as a continuum. You have things are great and they're high and they're going nice, and then boom, they can drop down, and maybe you feel a little lonely in your marriage, a little estranged, but you have the power to make a choice. And it looks like you, Doug, you and Diane made a choice. You changed your attitudes and you just dug in and you did what it took. And now you're being rewarded. You're being rewarded. And I was talking with you on the phone the other day, and I can't remember the female medical doctor, neurosurgeon or neurologist. She was an expert in hormones. She talked about the male brain and the female brain, and she talked about hormones. And she said men over 70 have a drop in testosterone, like 1% every few years, and it drops up to 50%. And that's a good thing, because as the testosterone drops, older men, the ego seems to go away. The emotions are expressed more comfortably in general. And that with this hormonal shift in men, women are happy with their older husbands. So, I mean, that's wonderful. We have a culture that tells us you got to have testosterone. You got to be a strong man. Being 35-year-old male is where it's at. That is the highlight. And in my reading, I'm like secretly reading like, wow, isn't that nice? And what a shame that many people will make it to 20 years, get divorced, maybe start over again. And they're starting a whole new history. But again, I don't mean to discount those of you who have had very difficult marriage and get divorced. We're making a pitch here tonight for those of you in a marriage to really think about what you are giving up. You're giving up a lot. You're really giving up a lot. So agree with me or disagree with me. I'm really a proponent of lifelong happy marriage. If you're not happy, somehow find a way to make it happy. Make yourself happy. Don't break the marriage because you're not happy, or your partner is not doing what you expect him or her to do. So again, there's just going to be a difference of opinion on that. What other ideas come to mind, Doug, about a lifelong happy marriage?
Well, I think anybody, even if they're on the verge of divorce, or they think it's they've fallen out of love and everything, I think if you put those two people on an island all by themselves, that I think in a short time they would both become happy, and they figure out ways to be happy together without maybe a lot of the things that can cause unhappiness, the extraneous things like money and friends or relatives that are hurting you, or whatever, borrowing money, not paying it back and stuff. And my wife and I, we don't debate politics. And
Good.
it's fun. My son, who's now 46, I'll be 46, gave me some of the best marriage advice about 5 years ago, because he's been married now 20 years. So he said that, Dad, he says, the wife is always right.
Yeah.
And always say, I'm sorry, you're right. What can I do to make it up? And he says, and you'll have no problems. And it worked.
Yeah.
I've tested it. But it's just, hang in there. Know you can make it work. Believe it's going to work. And the only way you can get to the point where the rainbow of a storm is to weather the storm. And then there will be a beautiful rainbow afterwards. And that's what's happening with us. We're having such a good time. And I didn't get the chance to take her to the deserted island, but thanks to the pandemic, it's the next best thing to a deserted island.
Yeah, I do. See, I like your attitude. I do believe that. There are some people I've talked to who I know their opinion would be, oh yeah, if you go to a deserted island, well, the opposite could happen. We hate each other and we kill each other. But that's your perspective. You can see your marriage as an opportunity to build and make it something better. Find out ways. It's actually, I like your positive attitude, because you're always looking for something new to try that will work out. If it doesn't work out, set it aside. another author to look at that's very helpful. Her name is Michelle Weiner Davis, and this is available at your library. Okay, it's not going to be, we might have a glare. Divorce Busting by Michelle Weiner Davis. And basically, she has a lot of good YouTube things. And today I was watching one YouTube video, and she talked about how 5 ways to divorce-proof your marriage. And one of the ways was, if something isn't working, don't keep trying to make it work. For example, if you tell your husband, hey, you're reading a newspaper while we're eating dinner, can you put the newspaper away? And if you say this again the second day and the next day and the next day, it becomes a nag. So she's talking about, if something doesn't work, don't keep trying to do it. If something is working, keep doing that. And anyway, so she's got some good ideas on how to ward off if you feel you're headed towards divorce. She's got some good work too, and there's many good authors out there. But being on the deserted island, would remind you that you are a team, that you have fun, that you work together, and you problem solve creatively together. I think where marriages run into problems is when one or both partners give up. Either they have a lack of imagination, a lack of trying to find new ways of doing things, or just a sort of not caring or giving up. So Doug, you're a great example for not giving up. And I'm glad you stayed together, because do you know that affects your next generation and even the next one, even into your grandchildren. If your story would be completely different if you got divorced at the 33-year point. Now your kids can see you as an example. Your grandkids can see you as an example. And there's love and happiness shared. And the statistics are not so good on kids of divorce. If 2 people get married and they are both from divorced households, maybe even a second divorce, they have a 46% increase of they themselves getting divorced. That should really cause people to stop and think. It doesn't mean they'll get divorced, but it's just so much. Researchers have shown that it's just really high, because our first experience to a marriage is the family we grew up in. And many of us will grow up in a situation and look and say, I'm gonna have a better marriage than the marriage my parents had. I'm gonna do things differently. And a lot of people have gone on to do that. That's great. And so the couple might not be the happiest, but if they stayed together, they worked at it, and they themselves, tried to have some level of happiness, I think that's better than, splitting apart just because you want to go find a new partner. But again, each couple makes their own decision. It's not for me to say. I can only have an opinion in my own marriage, really. So that another thing that I hear you saying, with 50 years of marriage, you have comfort, you have freedom, you have a lot of freedom. You are free from raising the young children. You have more time together. You have more time to go and enjoy your second home and your boat, and to travel if you want to. You have more money at this point as a married unit. Oh, can you imagine the financial mess that can sometimes occur in a divorce situation? But now you've worked up to a point, you have more time, more money. Hopefully you continue to work on your health so that you can enjoy life. You have a deeper trust and respect. Each of you have each other's backs, right? You have each other's backs on situations.
You made me think of a little funny. I like to be a stand-up comic someday, at least talk to an open mic. But you presented one of the authors as a hyphenated name.
Yeah.
I wonder, what if 2 hyphenated name people got married? Would they have 4 names then in their last name?
Probably, yeah.
Have we ever crossed that?
Yeah, it's very possible.
But a troubled marriage is a time. But I believe there's lemonade in everything. If someone told me I'm terminally ill and going to die in 3 months, I would still focus on finding what the lemonade is. I mean, to me, I've play rolled that myself, and I'd say, well, at least I know I've got 3 months. I'm going to live every second to the
Right.
fullest. I may not go skydiving, but I'll just enjoy every moment. And now I'm trying to catch myself. You mentioned about not raising young children. Well, we have 2 of our 4 grandchildren come over now, and it's become a kind of a regular thing the last 2 or 3 months because they're kind of bubbled into with us because their mother and father work with us, so we're all together, and we shelter or we work together. So they come over, and I was feeling sorry for myself a little bit, letting it bother me that I work 5 days. I've worked many years in my life, 50 or 40 or 50 years in my life. Why do I have to babysit grandchildren for 6 hours? And then I turn that around, and maybe it's as they're getting a little older, we just have so much fun. We watch Forrest Gump. We fast forward through the parts. We know how to do that.
Right.
But they kind of keep attention to that, and it's just, and we'll play. We've come up in, Simon Says games and stuff, so we don't have to run playing tag for an hour and drop dead. We can say Simon Says stop. And get a chance to breathe. So, and now I'm changing that attitude, and it's great too. It's thought it was a bad, poor me situation, and now I look so forward to going and picking them up, and sad when we're taking them back 6 hours later. Where did the time go?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Doug. I'm glad you decided to come on and talk about this and share your story and your life with us, because it's just, these are the things we want to look forward to in our marriage. We really do. So I wish you and Diane continued happiness and health, and happy anniversary, May 1st. Your 50th anniversary is very special. I hope you have a nice party or just a good time. And
it's going to be a good year because we're both turning 70.
Okay.
And we're our oldest grandchild is going to be 18.
Wow.
And graduating this virtual schooling.
Okay.
And one daughter is going to be married 10 years, she and her husband. And then they've got the 20-year anniversary, and we got another one with like 15. Of our 3 kids, only one of the members has divorced parents.
Okay.
And yet, they've had a delightful marriage in these 20. So we're excited because of that statistic.
It's good. Yeah. Probably.
But I think the one spouse, our child, has the rock of seeing us even overcome a separation and now being happier and happier. So I think that helps them and motivates them he used to say he wanted to be 50 like we were when we were.
Oh, wow.
Because he said, you don't, everything, no problems and all that. So I think now he'd like to be 70,
Yeah. See, look at that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Doug. And thank you for watching this video. This is my last part in the series of 25 years or more marriage. And it's worth it, everybody. It's worth it to work through your problems, to stay married. The best is yet to come. That's what you told me. You texted me, the best is yet to come. It keeps getting better and better. And amen to that. That's fantastic. All right, Doug, have a good night. And thank you so much. And as always, make your marriage great.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
All right.